Youth voices matter. I've been waiting for you. We are KIC Radio.
Hello, welcome to the South Bank podcast. I'm your host this week, Cameron Gorman. I'm with Jacob Jones and Sami. How are we this week, boys? After what I can only describe as a game of blunders, several errors from Wolves in the penalty area has caused a not very good game, to say the very least. Jacob, I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts on a horrific result, 4-2 at home to Bournemouth?
Trying to put it in a way that's appropriate for the podcast, really, is going to be the biggest challenge of the day. Some have strong opinions on especially our defensive work on the weekend. Didn't let it spoil my weekend though. Put up a Christmas tree, maybe feel a bit better on the Sunday. Trying to swiftly get it out of my mind after this podcast. I'm going to think about Bournemouth at home again.
I think the only positives we can take is that it's now that festive period. It's officially 1st of December as of recording. We've got our advent calendars and we've got another fixture very soon as well. So hopefully we can turn things around. But Sami, what were your thoughts on a horrific home affair?
I'm just disappointed in words. There was only one highlight of that game, and that was before the match actually even started, and they were showing the fans. And I sent it to the lads chat. There's one gorgeous woman in a Wolves top. Never thought I'd see it. That was my highlight. Besides from that, in retrospective terms, we played awful. We were awful. And a hat-trick of penalties as well. First ever in the Premier League. It's only going to happen to us, isn't it? Yeah.
We love to break records, and they're always the bad ones. Always to do with defensive errors. Who would have thought that's the first hat-trick, though, of penalties? I would have thought that happened before, in honesty. I was quite surprised to hear that statistic. But Kluivert, he must have been very glad he showed up to Molineux, because all he had to do was show up, and he got gifted a hat-trick on a silver platter. And we'll get to those errors shortly and where they came from, but let's first look at the first half. Wow, what a terrible start that was. Almost a minute in. Against Southampton, we're scoring in a minute. Against the Cherries, we're giving away a pen in a minute. Sami, I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts on Toti's error?
It was a clumsy tackle. It was a really clumsy tackle. He shouldn't. When watching it, obviously he goes down and obviously he hits into. Sorry, was it Evan Nilsson? Was it that he?
Yeah,
Evan Nilsson. All three penalties, Evan Nilsson.
That's correct. Yeah.
So he hit into Evan Nilsson's foot, and then it was just a clumsy tackle. I was just screaming at the TV, shouting, "Why has he done that for them? Why? Like, Totti, he's usually a player who's, on his good days, he can hold the ball. He's a good, talented footballer in the defensive area. He helps us. He's adds that strength. And then yesterday, the first minute, he's giving tackles away like that in the penalty box. It's clumsy. It's effortless. It's almost as if like he wanted to give the Cherries a couple goals in hand. But yeah, it was a clumsy tackle for me. It shouldn't have happened. Obviously, he could have tried to defend the ball in much more simpler terms without causing a penalty. But hey ho, you can only hope.
I think that sums it up quite well. Jacob, what were your thoughts?
Well, for me, it's Totti commits a clumsy tackle, but it can't fully be blamed on him. I think Lemina's gone wandering into his natural position of a midfielder. We'll get on to O'Neill's team selection after, I'm sure. But he's gone wandering, which allowed the ball to come over the top, which is happening all afternoon, as it would when they've had success in the first minute. Very clumsy tackle, but we expect that from Totti Gomez. We know that we've seen it enough times now that he cannot play the back four, especially not without a leader like a Dawson next to him. He gets lost. I mean, we'll speak about playing Dawson afterwards. It wasn't his best afternoon either. But yeah, the first 20 minutes of that game was something like fever dream of what's going on. Obviously, that first minute, and then we're back in it within 5 minutes, and then from the 10-minute mark, we find ourselves back behind. It was like a game of like tennis, just backwards and forwards. Just absolutely abysmal. Not incredible at all.
I have to agree. I think there is certainly not just Totti to solely blame for that goal. I think ultimately Lamina last week against Fulham, we were all singing his praises. Great performance from centre half in that game. But at the end of the day, Mario Lamina is not a centre half. And I understand Gary O'Neill might not want to drop his captain in favour of what was a very good midfield against Fulham and worked quite well. Although when you've got two fit centre backs on the bench, I feel like only the gaffer Gary O'Neill is to blame here. I think you can't have two centre backs coming back from injury on the bench and you only choose to play one in Totti. Elite forwards like Evan Nilsson, Bournemouth shelled out 50 million to sign him. He's a player who's going to know how to work normal centre halves, put them through the rings, but I don't think Lamina's quite up to the task when it comes to centre half. I think it's ultimately showed that the Lamina at centre back experiment is not anything we can carry on with. I think Gary O'Neill has been almost found out tactically in some ways too, but we'll get more to that later. Let's have a look at one of the slight positives. Jurgen Strand-Larsen, an almost instant response to that first penalty, and it gave us some what was ultimately false hope. But Jacob, what were your thoughts on that goal?
Yeah, so I think it's magic what happens when you cross to a guy who's, big as the Eiffel Tower in the box. He scored a head. John Larson now, obviously, goals on the weekend. Scored 5 non-penalty Premier League goals since the start of October. No single player has more in the Premier League. And that's coming from, that's quite a surprising stat for me, because I'm someone who believes that, especially at the start of his Wolves tenure, that John Larson's finishing did leave a bit to be desired at times. But I think in recent weeks he's really found that his shooting boots. Both goals brilliant on the weekend, but we're on his first goal at the moment. Fantastic ball from Bellegarde. One of the, I probably count on one hand, good things he did on Saturday. But again, probably not being played in his natural position. We've got other players that could probably fill that role better than he does. But no, a great ball from Bellegarde, a great goal from Larson. Just a shame that in typical Wolves fashion this season, we collapsed immediately afterwards.
Sami, what were your thoughts on that goal?
Obviously, I've got to have to agree with what Jacob has said, to be fair. It was a beautiful ball in by Bellegarde, and when you've got someone as tall as and big as Strand Larson in the box, you're going to expect where that head's going to put that ball in the back of the net. But yeah, it was a good play. Obviously, like Jacob did say, it was a bit of false hopes to us leading on to further into the game, but it's always a thing with Wolves. It's one of them ones where whenever they score, we will score. So no matter what, I think we've scored in every game, I think, since Arsenal, I think it was, when we lost 2-0. Yeah, so we are going to score. That's kind of what statistics have shown us. And to do it immediately after the Cherries goal is boosted us up. And then obviously you see further down into the extra minute, into the first half, then it just kind of brings our hopes a bit down. But it's for that goal, it was a good goal, good cross by Bellegarde. And yeah, I'll have to refer on what Jacob said. It was probably one of the best things that Bellegarde did all game, to be fair.
I do have to agree. I don't think for Jean-Luc Bellegarde it was his best game in a Wolves shirt at all. I thought he was quite poor. I thought in some regards he was quite lucky to not be the one coming off at half time in favour of Rodrigo Gomez, who I thought had shown very good glimpses of his talent in that first half, often being open in those wide areas, which is an area I really thought that we could have exploited more. He was getting in excellent pockets of space. However, ultimately, Gary O'Neill saw things differently. I understand he may have wanted to keep Jean-Luc Bellegarde on the pitch due to him grabbing an assist already, but as you both touched upon, it's great to see Strand Larsen actually having crosses into the box. And surprise, surprise, when you have a 6'3" Norwegian striker, he can header the ball into the net. I was very happy to see us equalise so quickly. I think it showed a lot of guile about the lads to come back so quickly into the game and get back on level terms. However, that didn't last long in the long run, but it was nice to see at the time. Let's talk about more defensively. Before Bournemouth went ahead and got their second goal, which was an excellent team move. I don't think there was much we could have done about that finish from Kirkes alone, but it was a great team move, passing around our box. They really exploited all the space that we create without having an extra centre-back on the pitch. Mario Lemina, he is ultimately a centre midfielder, and I think it clearly shows when he's stepping up, getting on the ball, trying to make things happen in attack with dynamism, but it didn't work out, and Bournemouth had way too much space to exploit. And when Kirkes was able to come up and overlap, great finish from him. What were your thoughts on what is ultimately just an excellent team goal from Bournemouth? Sami, I'll come to you first.
Well, yeah, Bournemouth on. I'm going to say this. When Bournemouth first came to the Prem, they were kind of a team that we kind of think of like Southampton back then. Now you can see what Iraola, what he's doing. He's at Bournemouth. He's actually not doing that bad. He's doing quite well. You see what Bournemouth are doing in recent results. They're not actually a bad team. You got to see how they played against us as well. How much they were pressuring us and everything. Which Wolves, we aren't that kind of used to from a Bournemouth side. Obviously, it's Gary Neal's XT, so hopefully we would have thought that he would have known how to counter it in a way, but you never know. But no, it was a good goal, excellent team play. Then obviously the finish from Kirkes, there's no way Jose Sá was stopping that, no way. But Kirkes, my opinion, so underrated. He is a top quality player. He is. Bournemouth are actually quite lucky to have Kirkes because I saw as well that there was a couple other big teams that have interest in him as well. So yeah, he is a quality player, and to score a goal like that, it's just incredible. It's just incredible.
Just incredible indeed, Sami. I have to agree. Like you touched upon, Kirkes has a lot of interest from big teams, especially Liverpool, who look like they might be going for him in the summer. And you see exactly why when he puts in a performance like that against us. Jacob, what were your thoughts on this team goal?
Well, I mean, you just took the words exactly out of my mouth. What I was going to start with that Liverpool thing. I think Liverpool have their Andy Robertson place in Kirkes. I think he's a fantastic footballer, and I was very impressed with Bournemouth last week. I think their game management from Iraola, fantastic. Pressed us very high from the start. Got a little stat about that, but I'll probably bring it up in the next penalty. Fantastic on the press, but then weren't pressing all game. Weren't doing ourselves. They kind of got established that 2-goal lead after the penalty. They took the tempo out of the game, and they were so well drilled that we didn't have an answer for it. We didn't have a plan B. So Mateus Cunha, every time he got the ball, they were so tight on him, and we proved that we can't play without being able to play through that man. You bought Rodrigo Gomez, and his job on Saturday wasn't just his girlfriend turning up for Sami's entertainment. It was a very good first half from him. He put in a great effort. Yes, he's very raw. Yes, he's not particularly strong. So he did struggle at times down that wing, but he was the one always getting them spaces. I was screaming at times that first half. He's miss out that man, play it to. He's direct. He's getting at players. So I would have rather him stayed on. But yeah, back to the point of that second goal. Fantastic move for them. One of them were in the ground. We all just kind of went, yeah, fair enough. That's a fantastic team move. And we didn't do that once on Saturday, and that's why Bournemouth full credit for their win. We could say 3 penalties, we could say all of that, but they were much the better team on Saturday, and that second goal epitomises that.
I do have to agree. There's a few things you touched on there that I'd like to address. There was a few times Gomez was getting in those pockets of space, and we were wondering why Totti wouldn't be playing him the ball. Every time he seemed to try to play to Ait Nouri to then play it up the wing down to Rodrigo Gomez. And ultimately that slowed us down too much. Like you've both touched upon with Bournemouth's high pressing, it was simply too much for the boys, and they didn't seem to know how to handle it. You could tell how well drilled they were from the training ground. Their shape was never broken. Their pressing was relentless. And I really have to say it was men against boys tactically. With Iraola against Gary O'Neill, they knew our passages of play that we attack with before we even knew what we were doing ourselves. We couldn't play through our best players like Cunha, who was getting double, triple teamed at times by opposition defenders. And like Jacob said, we've ultimately proved that maybe we are a one-man team, as much as that pains me to say, because they shut down Cunha, they shut down Wolves, and except for some moments of individual brilliance from Strand Larson and other players who managed to connect with him, like Guedes, who I'll get on to later, I really think we struggled in this game. But let's move on to the next penalty. The most debatable one in a way, but I was saying that at the time. I think post-match, having watched it all back, I have to say I think all three are Stonewall penalties. I don't think there's any way we can try and say that it's not the case. But Jacob, I'll come on to you first because you had a few interesting things to say at the time.
Yeah, so I'm the same as you at the time, very upset about the penalty decision. But I think it's more of an issue within the rules that I was annoyed with than, on field it's a penalty by today's rules. Star has gone through the player. My argument was, as a goalkeeper, he is blindsided, he doesn't see. Evan Nielsen slided in. Evan Nielsen slided in quite a reckless manner as well, wouldn't my argument. But end of the day, he's gone through the back of him. It is a penalty. But, it was an avoidable penalty anyway. We're messing around with it at the back against Bournemouth, who are stat now. They're the most successful pressing team in the division. They've won in terms of winning the ball back off a press. Why are we playing it around the back, especially with a makeshift back four? Quite disappointed with Gary O'Neill not to have picked up on that before the game. So, it wasn't just this goal where, playing it around the back cost us. I think it was really, really poor, decision making. Very, very disappointed penalty to give away. And at that point, we gave ourselves a mountain to climb, 3-1 down in, 20-something minutes?
Within half an hour.
To pick yourself back up from that, it was always going to be a hell of a task, and it was so avoidable. And that's what's so frustrating about Saturday's match. So much self-inflicted wounds, which don't sit right with me at all.
I do have to agree. I feel like it's all our own fault. We're the only ones to blame, ultimately, for ruining what should have been a game to really capitalise on the momentum we'd created from a good string of results. I think that's what makes it so disappointing. You touched upon, Jacob, how you said it was a makeshift back four, but ultimately that didn't have to be the case. I think Gary O'Neill is completely at fault here for having Santi Bueno and Craig Dawson both come back from injury, ultimately to sit on the bench. But I really don't agree with that, and I hope we see a difference against Everton in midweek. But ultimately, the rule has quite done Jose Sa in. But like you said, we can't play around the back when a team like Bournemouth have done their homework on us, and when our style of play is completely countered by them. Sammy, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously watching it when speaking to Jacob about it after, you were saying that no, sorry, when I was speaking to you about it after Cam on the group chat, saying that obviously you guys were at the game, but when you actually see it on the stream, it was it is in fairness a penalty. I'm just and reflecting off what you said as well. We are kind of to blame. We went back-to-back runs last week. Obviously winning against Southampton and then Fulham, and then we have this glimpse of hope within us that Bournemouth could be like kind of a close or if not kind of a winnable game. But obviously the penalty that was given. It was a penalty. Obviously, it wasn't Jose Sar's best day yesterday. Giving away not just that penalty, but also another one as well. We are to blame, and obviously Gary O'Neill, he kind of needs to see this now and needs to, try and. Sorry, hi Harley. Oh, yeah, no, Gary O'Neill, he needs to kind of sort it all out before it gets too tough for us. But hopefully, we're getting into the festive period now. This time last year in our festive period, we were doing so well in the Prem. So hopefully it can bring us a bit of glimpse now.
I really hope so too, Sammy. For any listeners who aren't watching on YouTube, to clarify, Harley is Jacob's dog, who just made a guest appearance on the podcast. Bournemouth ultimately did their homework on Wolves, and at times I think in attack we were completely lost for ideas. We seemed to not know how to go forward. We didn't know how to break them down. Bournemouth kept their shape excellently. You could tell they'd been working all week on it in training, and it looked like Gary O'Neill had given our players a week off. They seemed to not have any idea how to counter anything Bournemouth threw at them. And it was a real lack of intensity when 3-1 down, I thought. They seemed to act like they were the ones winning, a very passive passing around the back, mildly threatening their back line, but three men on Cunha, sorry, a lack of options for players. I just think we were way too easy to go against, and they were too hard to break down. But let's move on from the first half. Let's talk about half time. An incident regarding Jose Sarr again. He seems to be all the media attention regarding this match. But what happened in the South Bank? Jose Sarr, a scrap with fans, and some, quite frankly, idiotic fans getting laughed out of the stadium with some not very choice words from the South Bank faithful. Jacob, what did you see?
I mean, I put out a tweet about it after the game on our Twitter page. Don't get following. Just sums up the club at the moment. There's such a divide, but we've never, we've never had been building. Some people blaming the owners for our poor on football. Some people blame the players. Some people blame the fans, and it's just different extremes. It's all just kind of in this cauldron of boiling up, and it was a matter of time like that happened. Realistically, whatever was said, I don't know. Clearly, something out of pocket forced our reaction that way. But if you're a fan in the South Bank, what do you think you're going to achieve by berating one of our players? It's not going to make him suddenly turn into Neuer second half, is it? It's absolute F. If we're being like, it's terrible. What? With 3-1 down, the last thing you want to see is the players and the fans going at each other's necks. It just proves where we are. Towards the end of the game, Bournemouth fans, bless them, they bought, a bus of them, singing Gary wants to score. The South Bank are joining in. It's relatively funny. I have frustrated Gary O'Neill myself, but it just proves where we are as a football club. There's a kind of toxic atmosphere just looming around the place at the minute, and I don't like it. I'm sure neither of you two like it. Just think all of it. And, when we have Nuno here, it's kind of like family. Cristiano never got that. He made mistakes. I'm not saying Jose Sarr's the perfect goalkeeper. He's far from it. But it wasn't only Jose Sarr. And whatever that fan's done is out of order. I hope he's never allowed in the Molyneux again.
I do have to expect a lengthy stadium ban will be coming in there. I did see a post with some video footage regarding the incident, and by the sounds of it, these fans have been berating Jose Sarr all match. And I really, I have to say it's really not fair. I think a player like Jose Sarr, you need to ultimately get behind your goalkeeper. If you want him to be keeping these attacks out, you can't be getting on the players' backs. The phrase comes to mind for me: united we stand, divided we fall. And ultimately, like you touched upon, under Nuno as a club, we were very united. We were like one big happy family. But due to, whatever people deem to be the faults, be it the sets of players, the manager, the owners, or the fans ourselves, we all have to take accountability at this point, I think. And I think as a club, we really need to address this as a fan base. We can't continue in the way we are. Otherwise, our situation is never going to improve. We have to work together. We have to have each other's backs. One pack is what the club preaches, but it feels like we're multiple packs fighting over the same territory at the moment. Sammy, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, like you guys have both kind of said, I'm going to have to agree with both of you. Like when we had Nuno, we were all family. We were all united. Obviously, look at the relationship that Nuno had built with us. He treated us like we're one of them. We are Wolves. We are the pack. And then now, obviously, under Gary O'Neill, it's kind of a bit of a weird atmosphere. Obviously, I didn't actually see at halftime what had happened. I just read about it on the media after. Obviously, for a fan to kind of been doing that to Jose Sa, it's not needed. It's unnecessary. Obviously, you can't hate on the guy that much. Okay, yes, he gave like two penalties, which he understands and he's frustrated with himself. But then to also add it on to him, it's not good for obviously his mental state, which will obviously sorry, it's escalated him to like kind of crash out in a way. But it's like I said, it's unnecessary. It's not needed. We have to try and stick together, no matter through the good times and the bad. We are all Wolves, and this is what football is. This is what happens in football. There's going to be unseen circumstances happening every now and then. We're just going to have to stand together and try and make a way through it. But yeah, it was one of them ones where it's not needed.
I have to agree. People need to bear in mind that while we see them as footballers, kids might see them as FIFA cards. They are ultimately people too. They have their own mental states and mental health. And it's not going to be done any favours by our position in the table, but especially when fans are getting onto them and being so idiotic. It's important to not let the minority represent the majority in our fan base, and I'm glad we're all here to condemn them. But I think we should also condemn that performance in the second half, which we will now move on to. Dawson came on for Rodrigo Gomez, at half time. I have to think that should have been Jean-Luc Bellegarde coming off. I understand why Gary O'Neill didn't take him off due to him having an assist in this game, but we've already touched upon that. Let's talk firstly about the strange positions being occupied by all of our players when this tactical shape changed, when Dawson came in. Sami, I'll come to you first. What did you see on the TV? Because you will have had a better view than us in the stadium.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you, mate. I did go to the toilet and I kind of didn't make my way back in order for the first like 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. I do apologise. I was on the toilet and I was sick, as you can tell.
Not the best self for Sami this week.
Sorry.
Let's all wish him a get well soon.
Thank you, but
that performance made us all sick, I think. So.
I have to agree.
No, yeah, no. Obviously, when I watched it when I got back, oh my god, yeah, you can see we couldn't hold the shape well. I don't think, seeing how we were playing, it was a very sloppy game. Very sloppy game, both first half and second half. I would have thought in the second half it would have been more, okay, that halftime team talk, the changes are going to be happening. And then to just only take off Rodrigo Gomez, which, yes, in fairness, it wasn't his best game. But like you said, Cam, I would have taken off Jean-Luc Bellegarde. Obviously, okay, he got the assist, but, it wasn't his best game. It wasn't. And, he was someone that I would have taken off besides from Rodrigo.
I have to agree. I think apart from the assist, every time Jean-Luc Bellegarde received the ball, he seemed to play it back into his defence. Jacob, what were your thoughts on what was a strange positional shape going into the second half, despite Dawson coming on?
For me, it was very, very desperate. I think the difference is O'Neill set up with a team that won last week. He's winging it, so he played well last week. He didn't set up this game specifically. Iriola set up his team for this game, and it worked to a T. So come half time, Gary O'Neill's go, oh God, what am I meant to do here? So we come out second half, he's moved 8 really further forward, yeah, jolly good. Why on earth is he walking over to the right hand side? Why is he starting there? So when the game starts, he walks on into midfield. I think it's just like Gary O'Neill's seen that his plan isn't working, so the plan's gone out the window, and he's kind of like, almost like he's got all these stuff to do, and they got muddled up on the floor, and it's like, oh, flow it together. So, he didn't actually address the issue of Mario Lemina playing centre back, which isn't working. He still played there. He just moved Totti over to left back. It did nothing to help. It was just, for me, it showed why that Iliola coming into Bournemouth has never looked a better decision than it did on Saturday. Because he tactically bullied Gary O'Neill, and that proved it in that second half. Just desperation. It got to the point that the subs weren't even being fought out either. Why on earth are you bringing Bangui Chalam anyway? But why are you moving Cunha into central midfield? We've still got Lamina at the back. You're just throwing anything at the wall and hoping it works. And for me, we said last week, Gary O'Neill is not safe. He just bought himself more time. Saturday was abysmal. And he has to take massive accountability for that. Because his tactical prowess on Saturday, it wasn't there. And, I'm getting almost heated talking about it now. Because it's so... If we can see it, why can't we see? But it's just not going to work. Even simple stuff like that second half, Avery's on the right, Bellegarde's still on the left. What sense? Don't make any sense of it. The wrong players are on the pitch at the wrong times. The shape's wrong. There's no plan B. It was never going to work in that second half at all. And I think Gary O'Neill should be ashamed of what he did in the second half.
I have to agree with everything you said there, Jacob. That was very animated from you, but rightfully so. I think you've shown a lot more passion in that segment alone than a lot of the players did on that pitch on Saturday. I have to agree, Gary O'Neill seemed tactically bullied. I really agree with that. Bournemouth's ownership, they must be licking their lips thinking, wow, we've really made the right decision. Completely, utterly outclassed Gary O'Neill, made him look like a PE teacher. I think, Ait Nouri, why is he starting on the right-hand side? Why is Jean-Rick Bellegarde being moved to the left when his only good moment in the game came from a cross on the right-hand side of the pitch coming into Jurgen Strand-Larsen? Ait Nouri, he can't cut in. It's like he was looking for shades of Pedro Neto from him being able to cut in. That isn't the sort of player Ait Nouri is, and Cunha in midfield, what is he thinking? Lamina at centre-half is one thing, but putting our best player into centre-mid when he's struggling to get on the ball anyway because he's getting triple-teamed at times, it's not going to get any easier when you put him in the middle of the pitch. You have an attacker coming in to close him down, a midfielder and a defender. It made no sense to me, and I really think Gary O'Neill was shown levels by Iraola. Sami, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't agree with what both of you said even more. Gary O'Neill literally got bullied on Saturday by tacticals. I actually really want to see what he keeps going to his iPad for, because it clearly is not working every time. But yeah, Iriola, he dominated on Saturday. He showed Bournemouth what Gary O'Neill couldn't do. And, to get the result for Bournemouth, that's just what he needed. Gary O'Neill, it is where I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know what's going on in his brain. I don't know if he's drank the wrong cup of tea this morning on Saturday morning, but, something was not right. It did not work. You can see the errors in the first half. You should know what you need to change in the second half. And then you change it by putting our left back on the right and then our best player in the midfield. It's not working. It's generally not working. We can see it's not working, and he's tried to do these changes to see if it can work, but they don't work. So he's not changing them, and he's letting the game play out. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't really want to crash out because there will be a bit more, inappropriate content, and I can't really afford that. But yeah, no, it was abysmal to see the performance that we played on Saturday, and the tactical analysis from Gary O'Neill.
I have to agree. I think we will leave a lot of the annoyance till later on, because we still have quite a lot to discuss about this second half. We've barely touched the surface. I think we looked absolutely lifeless in attack until Gonzalo Guedes entered the pitch. A player who, with absolutely limited minutes this season, has now got 4 goals and 2 assists in about 220 minutes or something like that. Why is he not starting games? I think a lot of our best moments this season have been when he is on the pitch. And while I understand him and Gary O'Neill may have some kind of unspoken differences between them, maybe that's why he's not starting, but Gonzalo Guedes is someone we've got on the back of in recent weeks because we know his ability, because we can see sometimes in his body language he doesn't seem to care, but he really does seem to care in recent games. He's been coming on, making a difference. That front three, Cunha, Strand Larsen, and Guedes, they connect very well. Strand Larsen has been feeding off Guedes' service. I think I saw a statistic where I'm not sure if it was his fourth or third goal, but it was his third assist from Guedes, something like that. And I really wonder why those three aren't starting more. We look a lot more fluid when it's that front three. Let's talk about our goal. Strand Larsen from Guedes in what we had ultimately been watching a second half of more of the same of the first, really. We've been thinking we're lifeless in attack. We're not creating at all. One moment where a Bournemouth defender steps out of position, Guedes manages to play the ball into space for Strand Larsen, and an excellent finish. What were we thinking about this goal? But ultimately got us back in the game in a position we could have capitalised to gain a point from at the least. Jacob, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, so I tweeted out as well. In the month of November, Gonzalo Guedes actually played 97 minutes of Premier League football, so equivalent, one whole match. In that time, he got 3 goals on, 1 goal, 2 assists. On average, that's the goal contribution every 32 minutes. That's less than a half of football. What on earth does this man have to do to start football matches? He should have came. He can't even say he doesn't fit the system because he's playing that right-hand side when he comes on majority of the time now. He's not playing up front, and he's doing well there. So he should have came in after Crystal Palace. You mentioned that front three of Cunha, last Guedes. That was what got us back in that game. And he got the assist on Saturday. Guess what? Because he moved. There was no movement on that pitch. He comes on, he wants to be on the ball. He's constantly moving, he's in and out. Even when he loses the ball, we mentioned him not caring. I've always said that's just the way he is. And you see that, he's running, he's chasing every ball. So a fantastic reverse ball once he gets on it by Lars, who's very composed with finish. Just a shame he plays with absolute spanners on Saturday, apparently, who couldn't keep us in the game for a minute, which will get on to net.
Sami, what were your thoughts on Jurgen Strand Larsen's second goal?
Yeah, like Jacob said, obviously there was movement finally in the game. It was nice to see Guedes assisting Strand Larsen again. Obviously, it was a nice little play. Strand Larsen, he created that space. He made Guedes passed the ball into that space, and beautiful finish from Strand Larsen. And then it was 3-2 then. So when seeing it on the telly, you're like, oh my god, wait, we could actually get a point from this. And then to obviously in not that sorry, not that long later. Oh my god, bear with me. Harsh. Yeah, don't get ill, guys. Take your paracetamol and ibuprofen. And then literally not that long after, a clumsy tackle from Sarr again, which brought our hopes down. But I'm not going to speak about that third penalty, obviously. But it was a nice. Yeah, it was nice to see that pass from Guedes into Strand Larsen. It was a beautiful finish. It was a nice little play, and we need to start seeing Guedes more, like you said, Cam. That front three, Cunha, Strand Larsen, and Guedes, they can easily feed off each other. They can easily work around each other and create that ball to go into the back of the net. I don't know why Gary O'Neill's not starting more. I generally don't think. Well, Gary O'Neill is kind of in the right sense at this moment in time, because given the recent performance on Saturday, I think he needs to have a couple of days in bed. But yeah, no, it was a nice little goal, and it's nice to see Strand Larsen scoring again at the Molineux.
I have to agree. And as we can see from Sami's health, it was really a sickening performance. Mm-hmm. I think Gary O'Neill isn't the only one who needs to spend a few days in bed. Sami, rest up, mate.
I've got
let's talk about that last penalty. What a horrific thing to do right after we get back into the game. You see Strand Larsen scoring, telling everyone to get the atmosphere up, getting the South Bank ready. Everyone's excited. We kick off. We immediately begin to play around the back. We're thinking, this never ends well. And the last person on that pitch we would all expect a mistake from in a Wolves shirt, Craig Dawson. what are you doing passing that ball back? I think the second penalty, as well as this one, I think are both issues caused by a complete lack of communication in that back line. I think they all have to be communicating, telling each other that a player like Evan Nilsson is lurking in these pockets, waiting to pounce. And Dawson, he seemingly didn't even look behind him before he played the ball backwards. He just quite a lazy, slow ball back. Evan Nilsson lurking behind the two centre halves, just has to sweep in and take it. And Jose Sarr, yes, he gave away the pen, but I feel this is more on Craig Dawson. Jacob, I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts on a calamitous way to go after getting back into the game?
One of the stupidest penalties I've ever seen in my life. The whole move, we have a goal kick. Lamina, who's better on the ball than Jose Sarr, plays the ball to Sarr. Whatever reason, on a goal kick. Bear in mind, Sarr's gone down holding his back about 5 minutes prior. He then plays out to Dawson, who you'd expect to be composed. Why does he play it first time? You know there's going to be Evan Nilsson there. He presses. Lamina's just been in the box, so Evan Nilsson's obviously onside. Why have you played that pass blind? Knock it down the line, knock it out for a throw and anything. From playing Dawson especially, Sarr, I'm not blaming Sarr because what can he do? He's come out, took out the player. But for me, it's fully on Craig Dawson. But again, why? It wasn't the only time it happened. Why is Lamina playing the ball to start a goal kick? I know he's yacked with his feet, but he can kick a ball from a standing spot. Especially when we've just scored. Why do we keep hitting the self-destruct button? Happened against Liverpool, happened against Brentford, happened against Palace, happened twice in this game. Within minutes of scoring, we just kind of self-sabotage ourselves. The most stupid things. I've never known a team do it so often. I don't know what it is. It would happen to us. Constantly, and it's so frustrating. I thought we were going to finally wake up this game, and then it must have been, I don't think it reached a minute of playing football before this penalty was given. We were still almost celebrating the goal. Obviously, Kluivert steps up to it after, and despite, the North Bank trying their best to distract him, as we saw, he took it away from his act. He was been the happiest man in Wolverhampton because he weren't one of their standout players. And that's not even me trying to sound salty. For me, Evan Nilsson was a standout for them. I think Tyler Adams in midfield was fantastic. Kirkes, Calamity. Them players were fantastic. I don't think Kluivert stood out that much. He just got gifted a hat-trick. So awful day at the office. I'm hoping that's all it is. Because we've slipped back down into it now. We keep performing like that every week. Nothing's going to change. As good as the team is individually, performances like that are not going to keep you in this division.
I do have to agree. I feel like there's a lot of those performances we've said we hope are just bad days at this point in the season. They ultimately seem to be happening quite a lot. Again, like you said, we hit the self-destruct button and we're causing a lot of our own problems. After which, Bournemouth just really time wasted the rest of the game. And can you blame them? They'd done their business. They'd come to Molineux, they got a 4-2 scoreline, got their 2-goal cushion back, and they were ready to go again. Gary, what's the score being chanted by both sets of fans? I think spoke volumes as to the situation at Molineux, as we addressed earlier. But it's really all doom and gloom after you had to feel when Strand Larsen got that goal that we would come back into the game and perhaps get an equaliser for a point. I don't even want to say maybe more because I don't think we deserved it, regardless of if we had that capability. But just a very disappointing way to do it. And it feels like we've echoed that a lot the past few weeks. Like you said, against Liverpool, Brentford, we love to hit that self-destruct button as soon as we get back into these games and give ourselves a fighting chance. I really think there's more we should do. Right, let's talk about individual performances. again in this game. I had down Jurgen Strand-Larsen and João Gomez. I think they're the only ones who can remotely hold their heads high in any regard, along with Gonçalo Guedes. I didn't know if you two had any performers down, but I think it'd be more fun to do poor performances this week because I think I've ultimately named everyone who did well. I don't think there's much to say. Who were your biggest shockers this week, Sammy?
Oh, let me get my scroll. Jose Sarr, obviously, wasn't his best game. Totti wasn't his best game. Craig Dawson wasn't his best game. Who else? I could go on and on here.
Better find out a podcast if you name them all, pal.
Yeah, I'd probably say maybe the whole starting 11 plus the reserves plus the substitute. No, I'm joking. No, for me it would be Totti, Craig Dawson, and Sarr, and I would say Lemina as well. But yeah, he didn't. Obviously, in the first half and the bits in the second half, and I did see some bits as well where he didn't play bad, but he it wasn't his best game.
It wasn't great. Jacob, I think there's one player I know you'll mention.
Well, yeah, I think start with Lemina, and I think Andre had a forward game full shirt.
Yeah.
By far. Yeah, a certain man coming on off the bench. I know it's not just this game. What does he do? What does he offer Hwang Jan? Why is he still at this football club? I don't care about it. Oh, Hwang Jan got him. I've got eyes. He's rubbish. He's terrible. He can't play football. The first thing he does is he comes on, he runs around the centre circle, gets tackled immediately. Best thing he did was come on past that. Like, realistically, there's got to be something in this contract. We see all these Korean fans come over to watch. There's got to be something in this contract for him to play a certain amount. Because, in my opinion, he's absolute gas. Like, the guy should not be anywhere near playing football. I wish he was still injured. I wish he could play football again. I think he's terrible and he doesn't offer any. I'd rather see him. I'd rather see him still very much play coming off the bench in his current state. Not. I think he's lost a lot. Awful.
Someone has clearly gone a bit crazy, and I'm not surprised either by our current state of affairs at this club. Hwang Yi-chan, why was he subbed on in midfield, may I add? Andre, like you touched upon, definitely his worst game in a Wolves shirt, I hate to say. He was ultimately not protected at all by his backline and tried to do a lot of it himself, but also left the midfield exposed a lot more in the process, I think, by doing so. Hwang is... I was about to say a bad word then, but I won't say that. Hwang is not very good.
I mean, I know we've said about like singling out Jose Sarr and a bit hypocritical now, but I just think like when he's on the pitch, I want him to do that. I want him to shut me up. I'm not like I don't want to hate the man, but just it's so frustrating seeing him constantly just get game time over players like Rodrigo Gomez usually, who deserve that. Game time, who do put themselves about. I'd love Hwang Yi-chan to go and score 3 against Everton on Wednesday. Bob shut me. I'll be the first one thinking of Hwang Yi-chan. But for me, he just isn't offering it. I'm sorry to put you off, but I just wanted to allude on the point that I don't want to be digging this player out. I don't have a personal vendetta. I just don't play good at football.
No, I do have to agree. I feel like Gary O'Neill, again, is partially to blame. Why is he taking off all our centre midfielders? If you are Tommy Doyle sitting on that bench, you must be seething. One of our best passers of the ball who really could have made an impact to cut through that Bournemouth line. Why is he sitting on the bench when Hwang is being placed in midfield? I don't think that part is necessarily Hwang's fault, but... why are we putting all these attackers on the pitch in a midfield position without one of our midfielders who can really make a difference? Tommy Doyle, you must be furious with that, man. Ultimately, I think it's time to look towards our next game now. We are going to have a fan joining us, Everton season ticket holder, for this match preview. But let's look ahead to Wednesday now, shall we? And our away day at Goodison, which me and Jacob luckily are attending. Right, we are now joined by Everton season ticket holder and lifelong fan Harry Thomas. How are you, Harry? Welcome to the South Bank podcast. we're happy to have you here. How are you feeling after United have ultimately done us a few favours after our own battering at home and yours away? But you were in very good form before you headed into this fixture. How are you feeling?
I wouldn't say we're in very good form, to be honest. We've not scored in 4 games now, which is terrible. And I think everyone at Everton we're just waiting for Sean Dyche to leave, to be honest. That's the feeling, really.
Oh, can't be too sad about Sean Dyche leaving. Not the most entertaining brand of football, to say the least. However, you have been very defensively sound, and I feel like when you're heading into a relegation battle, like you very well could be dragged into it, depending on our result against you, or you could steer clear of it and further condemn us. However, who would you say are your biggest threats ahead of this Wednesday?
Well, for our team, I'd say the only threat we really have at the minute is Ndai, unless we maybe score from a set piece. I honestly don't see us scoring a goal for the foreseeable. I'm genuinely being serious. I think you'll win quite comfortably. If you can score.
Wow, I'm dreaming.
I'm dreaming.
I know, yeah. If you can score a goal in the first half, then I think you'll probably win by 3 or 4 again. But it depends. If we play well defensively, then and I'm hoping for a 0-0, but that's it.
Oh, likewise here, Harry. Our problems have all been our defensive woes. We seem to be scoring goals for fun, but the only problem is our defence opens up and says, come right through to the opposition attack. I do have to address, like you touched upon, with set pieces. Always the biggest threat with Everton under Dyche, I think. Who would you look out for in those set pieces as your biggest targets?
It's a good point. I'd say Tarkowski. However, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets dropped because he's had a few bad performances now. I think the last few goals we've conceded, obviously United game, I think he was probably at fault for 2 of them. And I can't remember one of the last games we played. He's just been poor recently, so it wouldn't surprise me if we dropped him. And Sean Dyche does love Michael Keane, who, to be fair to him, he is a threat going forward. Other than that, Branthwaite and no one else is really going to threat in and around the box, unless maybe if Lindstrom plays, there's a chance he could score a free kick, but highly unlikely, I would say. So we've not got a lot going for us at the minute.
Not great. Jacob, Sami, what questions do you have for Harry regarding Everton?
Are Everton any good at penalties? You might get a few against us then.
No, it's a good question. If Calvert-Lewin plays, then he generally slots them. But and Pickford saves a few. If you're worrying about scoring any.
No, we don't. Yeah. Interesting you mentioned about the set pieces. That could be very interesting because we are terrible at defending set pieces. We've conceded a fair few this season. But I was wondering the other way around. Where do you see us hurting you? What are your weaknesses towards the defence end of the pitch? Where will this game be won or lost for Everton?
The game won't be won unless we do score a set piece, but the game could be lost with a defensive error. If we make a mistake at the back, then that seems to be it. If one mistake happens, there'll be about 3 or 4. But if we can ride the wave a bit, maybe if we do make a mistake, and Pickford seems to sometimes save us. So the game will be drawn if we don't make any mistakes, and I think that's the best result for us.
Harry, I'm sure our listeners will be very glad that you are so optimistic for Wolves. Sami, what were your questions?
Obviously, Harry, I assume that obviously you know Wolves and you've watched us play.
Yeah. I've watched a few games, but
obviously, So I think how long has it been now since? I think it's been 3 years since Everton have beat Wolves. I think it was the last time you won was 2021. But my honest question for you is, what do you actually see this score prediction being? Because you see the players that we've got and compared to the players that Everton have, what do you actually think that the score predictions will be on Wednesday night?
Considering before the 4-0 loss we had to United, it was 2-0 nils and a 1-0 loss to Southampton. I think we could follow along a similar trajectory. I think 1-0 if you can nick one, 1-0 if we can nick one, or 0-0. Genuinely don't see much else happening. But I know you have a lot of threats up front. Cunha's playing well, and Strand Larsen obviously scored 2 on the weekend. So yeah, I genuinely think you probably win, but yeah, it'll be low scoring, I think.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
It's probably the first time anyone's ever said this to you, isn't it? I think you'll
yes,
win.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You see the smile
Very, very, very happy to hear that, especially when me and Jacob will be travelling down to Goodison for this away day, which I'm very excited for. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. Other than, as you highlighted, Harry, with Cunha and Strand Larsen, who else would you say are the biggest threats in our side towards Everton?
In your team? Well, I mean, I know Aït-Nouri is quite good. He's not suspended. He didn't get booked last game, did he?
No, I think Semedo is suspended.
Right, okay. So, I know Aït-Nouri, he's all right going forward, and I know you do get your fullbacks forward, so that would definitely be a worry, especially if Ashley Young plays, although he's been pretty solid, I would say, recently. But, yeah, Aït-Nouri is definitely a threat, and I think the two main ones have to be Cunha and Larsen, really, because they're just pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are brilliant. The shining lights in what is a very dim season so far for us. Thank you very much, Harry. We appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your insight.
That's great insight. We'll get back up.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Brilliant, Harry.
Well, I think that leaves us very excited for Wednesday, given that the Everton faithful seem to think we will be battering them. I really hope that's the case, but I ultimately don't see it. I could easily see Everton nicking the win via a set piece, which tend to be one of our weaknesses. Sami, Jacob, could I get your score predictions for Wednesday?
Oh, I'm either thinking, and I'm going to go on a weird one here. I'm thinking either 2 or 3-0 or 2 or 3-1.
In favour of who?
In favour of Wolves. I generally do, because statistically, Everton haven't won a game against us since the 2020-21 season. So, and we've always beaten them since then. So I don't think, and plus, given as well, we don't score low. We always tend to score quite a few, so I can see us scoring quite a bit.
Jacob?
Either 1-1 or 2-1 Everton, because we're gapped.
I was going to say either 1-1 or 2-1 Wolves. I'm hopefully going to say 2-1 Wolves. I'm going to be optimistic ahead of our travel there. However, I could easily see it being 2-1 either way. I think that is all for this week. Thank you for listening to the South Bank podcast. I've been your host, Cameron Gorman, joined by Jacob and Sami. And thank you again for listening. We'll see you next week.
Online, on your mobile, and on your smart speaker. You're listening to the voice of a new generation. This is KIC Radio.